Yeah.
I would like to call the meeting to order. It is 7:20. We had a bit of a technical delay, but let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today we have some of our board, not all of it. We have two, Glenn and Brianna are unavailable, but we have Mary, Nahid, Brian, and myself. We do not have anybody in the room for public comment. Eric wants to. So we can move on to communication and correspondence.
Right, we received emails from Andy Correa on April 28th, 29th, 30th, and May 7th, and from Irene Correa on April 16th, May 11th, and 12th.
Approval of the minutes of previous meetings.
I move that we approve the regular meeting minutes from our April 9th, 2025 meeting.
I'll second. Any comments? All in favor? Aye. None opposed? Okay, Steve, your turn.
Thank you. We are going to have our vote next Tuesday on the budget, both capital and operating budgets for the town and the school. We urge everyone, please go out and vote. Marcia will run over, we have quite a few year-end transfers, they're cleanup transfers. We're still well under budget. Revenues are above projections and expenses are below, so we're in good shape. But Marcia will give you all the details on that. The steep grant that we got for the pickleball court, right? We are fully completed. The bathroom's completed. Everything we need to do for that grant is completed. And the reason I'm saying that, remember the other grant we applied for the high school lights, right? Part of that is, do you have any open steep grants? And that's a ding against you. So we closed that. WPCA is about to close theirs. Now, we were supposed to hear by the 15th of last month about the grant. The state has pushed it off, and we still haven't heard anything for the high school lights. So, in a way, that helps us because we told them this project is now fully completed. The bathroom's painted, so that's good. We have a new grant opportunity that came up in the last few days. Marcia and I have talked about it with John Puglisi, the chief of police. There's a COPS grant from the Department of Justice that will help pay for police officers' salaries for the first 3 years. So next year, we have a plan to add police officers, so we're going to apply for that grant. Now, these grants are really, really complicated. There's a lot of detail. We may need to hire someone who's an expert in applying for them, but we think we would have a very good opportunity to get that money. These schools, as you know, we've had a discussion before. I know I wasn't here at the last meeting. There is a grant program with the schools. The Board of Selectmen approved all the resolutions that they can apply for grants that will pay for 25% of ongoing projects. A roof repair, an air conditioning repair, and they have a couple projects they're going to be putting in there, and that's really good. The capital committee, we're working. Brian has done, and his team didn't, I think everyone agrees, a great job for the budget process. We'd like to memorialize that capital committee, so we're going to create an ordinance, right, to make it a part of the Board of Finance, whatever we need to do. I think that's a good idea, right? It's worked so well, I think it should be a permanent part. And of course, the town would get the vote on it and everything, but I think they would vote yes. We're also working with Brian and his team. We have the police station project coming up and the community center project coming up, and we're very cognizant that we want to stay within our debt policies and guidelines. And if we do these projects, we've got to make sure they're affordable for residents. So we've been working with Brian, and we'll bring more information to you as we go along on when we think we can do those projects from a funding perspective, how much we can spend on those projects. The timing of those projects is also important, but also what's important is the police station needs to come first because we have the legal requirements under the Police Accountability Act that require us to make changes to our existing police station, do additions, whatever, so we retain our certifications, and that's critical. That's critical. We don't have a choice. If anybody's been through the downtown, 777 Federal Road, they are like 98% complete in taking that down. The blight is removed. I don't know what the developer is going to do with that project. He's had an approved project for 7 years. completely approved by zoning, 3-story building, commercial on the ground floor. He never built it and never took steps toward doing it. So we're hoping that he either does it or has someone else, turns it over to another developer. 20 Station Road, they are starting, it's next week, on the actual remediation of the contaminants in the soil. That's a good thing. They will be doing that through November. That's how long it will take. But we just got the last final approval on Monday. The state is involved. It's really, wow, a lot of stuff to do. And finally, the Memorial Day Parade is coming up on Sunday the 25th. It's at 2 p.m. It's a lot of fun. I see a lot of you there. We encourage everyone to come out. That's it for me.
Just a question on curiosity for 777. Will they keep that fence up once all the debris is cleared?
Yeah, the owner wants to keep the fence up. We're having conversations with him. Obviously, it's his property.
Mm-hmm.
And he is worried, and rightly so, because we had this problem with 20 Station Road, that people were using it as a dumping ground. One weekend we found washing machines, tires, and then the town has to clean all of that out. So those are ongoing conversations. I would ask that if they're gonna keep that fence, they make it a little nicer
Would they
looking,
back it up?
push it back a little bit. It's not really that attractive. So we'll try to do that, but I understand that concern. You get midnight dumping,
Yeah.
and people can drive down and almost get in the back, and you'll never see them.
Mm-hmm.
We had it at Wheeling Pond last weekend. Somebody dumped 4 huge truck tires there. People, please. Right. But that's it for me.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
All right. So just looking at the current year budget and actual, the revenue, the taxes are on target. Based on the average collections, except for the one odd year, which was a COVID year, the red line is where we are for 2025. The interesting thing, I do a graph of all the different types, and nothing is particularly interesting in this, but one that we don't graph is the suspense collections, and we're going to be talking about suspense later. Usually we collect about $35,000 a year in suspense. This year so far, we've collected $76,500. There was one large collection of someone that has some very high-end cars that hadn't been paying taxes on them, and it was a $40,000 collection. We have another large $8,000 collection that the marshal has collected. We just don't have it yet, so it'll show up on our books in May.
Marcia, for people watching, could you explain what the suspense account is,
So,
why things go into suspense?
The suspense, and once a year we take and we move things to suspense, and we do it, it's like an allowance for doubtful accounts if you're an accountant, that we still, as you can see here, we still fully try to collect it.
Every penny.
But it gives us a better idea of what might be collectible. And then so the interest that we record on our books for outstanding taxes is only the non-suspense interest. But it all goes to collections as it goes to suspense or before. We still try to work with the marshal to get it collected, and we have a slide on that at the end here.
So those are funds that are due to the town, but we're doubtful as to when we will collect them. So we don't want to count them in revenue and start spending money we don't have. And a few of them we probably won't collect. If somebody moved out of state, it's harder to get that. Most of them are local, and we collect most of it over time.
Can I ask about the telephone tax payment, that, the first page? That one's down $11,000. Is that something that, have we accounted for that? It doesn't look like it's projected.
And we're not going to get any more. That comes in, we find out in March what it's going to be for April, and so we kind of estimate it instead of the telephone companies paying, filing a property tax report for each telephone pole that they have in town. It's all done together at one time, and it's
get an
just,
allocation.
you know, a guess of
Okay.
what we might get.
Did the 40,000 come in May? Or am I not looking at the right
The 40,000 came in, it would be included in back taxes, and it came in so far this year, in the year-to-date numbers.
But the number here is 36,000. Is that?
Well, yeah, that's the collections, but you said it's in the prior year tax, it's not in the collections number?
Oh.
It would be, it's not in the collections number. The collections number is the cost that we're paying we don't pay for the marshal or the services. That's added to the taxpayer's bill. So that collections number is the percent that we owe on that CTR program where they went out and looked for things.
Record videos, take pictures of license plates.
So the collections here is included in back taxes.
Still have 43,000
Back taxes?
prior year tax, every year.
No, it should.
Oh, that's better, oh, that's to go, okay, got it, yep.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
And the 8,000 doesn't show up anyplace yet. And the interest would be in the interest, and when I did look at the graphs, that was moderately interesting. That this is the highest year for interest collections that we've had in the last 6. So just by a little. Land use, it's expected to be slightly over budget based on our prorations, which is what we do this time of year. Intergovernmental, the FEMA money will be at least booked as a receivable in 2025, and we had thought it wasn't coming in until 2026. Every FEMA grant that we have has now been obligated by FEMA, and that tells us that's when we report it. They've gone through the state's separate audit, so it's just a matter of waiting for the payment. And we have one payment we've been waiting for since 2022, and the last time when I followed up, they said a few weeks. That was 10 months ago. I followed up now, and they said it'll be 2 to 3 weeks. So we're trying to just get as much as we can in before there's any stuff with FEMA. But what I was told is our disasters the money has already been committed, so it should not be a bad debt. But it's just nice to get it in and not have to worry about it. The town clerk, the conveyance taxes are expected to be over. Investment income is still going strong, but as of today, Union Savings Bank is giving us 4.513, and Newtown is giving us 4.38, which is unusual because normally Newtown has been higher than Union, but the last 2 months it's been the other way around. Any questions on revenues? Expenditures, there's only a few modifications from last month. We went through all of these. The modifications are that, the big ones are that we think, we had talked about the Eversource that from July 1 to April 30th, that they were charging that, the benefit amounts, or that the amount was higher for 10 months. That, and we have $250,000 set aside in capital non-recurring to pay for that. We don't think we're going to need to go to capital non-recurring to get that. We think we can get that out of excesses other place in the budget. And of course, the big one is that we didn't have a very snowy year this year, so we've got a lot of money left in sand and salt. So we're able to get that into the budget. We're able to get the bond interest that came up during the year because we bonded in October into the budget. And then we had taken some $160,000 out of contingency to pay for that flooding, which now FEMA's going to pay for. We're only putting in $136,000 back into contingency because we're also trying to pay for these without an additional appropriation. But we should still have what the Board of Ed needs, plus an extra 100,000. So the total in contingency would now be 432. The Board of Ed is looking for, based on our budget strategy where we pay for special ed, 331,000. That was planned all along, and that's what we've been doing for years, is paying that excess for Social Security. They have had a really tight budget. They need about 140,000 of money from for electricity, and we thought we would take that out of the capital non-recurring as well. But they think they can also fit that into their budget. No promises, but that's what they're trying to do. So that would leave us 250,000 in capital non-recurring that's not encumbered for anything that we had set aside for that. And we can do anything with it, but right now that there's some grants that Steve was talking about that we've been looking at. One is Department of Justice for School Security that we're working on there, that Eric and Casey have some needs that that school security grant is up to $500,000, and it would have a 25% match. So potentially we could use some of that 250 for that purpose with all the appropriate approvals. We're still at the very first stage of that, of what's happening, and nobody's applied for the grant or anything else. And the same with the police salaries, that up to $125,000 per police officer. I'm going to take a seminar on that on Tuesday. I don't think Officer 38 and 39 that are in the budget will be able to be covered. We'll find out for sure, because once it's already in the budget, then it just like the radio grant, you have to supplement the budget and not supplant. But there is, they were actually saying that they needed 4 new officers, but only asked for 2, so maybe that's a possibility. The other
It covers for 3
They
years?
have 2 more in next year's budget and use this grant to offset their salaries.
Yeah.
That's what we're thinking. The officers we have in this year's coming year's budget will not be covered, but we do have a plan to add 2 more next year. It will be $125,000 each. Well, it's over 3 years, so.
And we would still, we couldn't say, oh, we have them for 3 years and lay them off. We have to have them, keep them for 5 years, but I don't think we would be planning on doing that. And the other thing that Casey asked us to look at is, and again, just off the top of her head, not anything formal from the board, but would it cover another ASSO? That, so we'll find that out, but it's just something that we're looking into, and they were saying, oh, but where would we get the match from? Well, maybe we could get it from this money. That, but we're still a long way away. It's just the beginning of all that. Any questions on the expenditures? So no changes on the cash capital. This is the exact slide that we looked at last month, except for the bottom bullet, the steep grant. Remember, they were going to tell us by April 6th. As of 5 o'clock today, they still have not announced the steep grants. But Greg Dombowski is checking 3 and 4 times a day. And we have no update. They did update to say, oh, they will do it, they'll let us know by the end of April, and that didn't happen. So we have no more updates of when they're going to tell us. And that was for the high school lights. Any questions on the capital? And then other funds, the grant funds, we show those. We don't book a receivable until the end of the year, so some will show as though they're negative, but that's only because, like the FBI grant, we bill them every quarter. And then the Police Outside Services Fund, we have 328,000 there that would be available for use as of March 31st.
We did take money from it for the
The
new
budget
policy.
assumes that we'll use some.
The 328 is before we take money, because it has to go to the police commission and things, but I think that when we talked about it, it was 68,000 for a vehicle.
For-
Police car.
Would have to come out of that, so we'd still have 260.
The police commission has the final say on what that money gets spent for. In the past, two times that I'm aware, we bought police cars with it. We also did the initial design work, hiring the architect for the police station 5 years ago. I'm planning and talk to them, and they're in favor and amenable to using that 328 to design a new police station. So that will save us a lot of money, right? Because that'll be probably in the 80 to 150 range,
And we
somewhere in
said that
there.
we don't want it to really stay above 200, right? Isn't that the kind of the rule of thumb with the outside services fund, that there's
Or
kind
not
of
below
a...
Yeah,
150?
the floor
I thought
in the
it was-
past has been around between 80 and 100,000.
Okay.
It
But I
has
thought
gone
there
down
was a
as
ceiling
low
on
as 50.
I thought there was a ceiling on it too, that we wanted to...
I'm not aware of a ceiling, but this is about the highest it's ever been.
Okay.
But we do have plans to
150,
use
200,
it.
something like that as well, yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing is, we do not want to get in the habit of using it for police cars every single year,
No,
right?
but
You know,
the
because-
one time, I mean, yeah, because that
Yeah.
needs to be an operating, because there's a normal rollover,
Right. Right.
replacement scheduled for those, but the one-time expenses, like
One-time
with the
expenses,
capital
yeah.
is fine.
Yep. And they've always been very, very good about this and work with the town. So I don't anticipate any problems.
The audit update, the state asks us to approve the auditors by June 1st each year. This is the same slide with a few extra bullets that we had the last time. The audit fee is $69,000, that we only pay $61,500 because we prepare our own financial statements. They're looking for a $1,500 increase, which is, we had a three-year fixed fee and then 2 years that said we'd renegotiate. So the renegotiating is to up at $1,500 this year. That's outrageously low. We were anticipating 10 grand. I hope they're not listening. So if they're approved tonight, they would schedule their interim field work for June 9th.
Yeah, and I just would like to say one thing on that. I think the driver on a $1,500 increase is because Marcia gives them such clean books.
Yep.
They're in and out of here in a minimum amount of time while still doing their full job. But they're not having to dig in, they're not having to get explanations what this is, and that's a tribute to Marcia and her team, in my opinion.
And one thing that's interesting, I'm on this Municipal Finance Advisory Council for towns that don't get their financial statements in on time. Very interesting, and some great ideas I get from there. There's 169 towns, municipalities in the state. Approximately 100 a year do not get their audits in on time. I was surprised that it was that high.
That's crazy.
So.
Yeah.
Well, we had that problem 8, 9, 10 years
Yeah,
ago.
yep.
We were rolling over into the middle of the next year
Our
to get our
choices are
audits.
limited, right?
We've
Firms
probably
that do
got
audits.
four choices. One would not be independent because I still get money from them. So that leaves 3. But to try and get the September timeframe from anybody would be tough. We did go through that 3 years ago when it was time to decide if we should go out to bid, because we do that consideration every 5 years.
Yeah, if you go out to bid and somebody comes in with a lower bid, you go to the end of their queue. So that means they could be in here in December because they're taking care of their other clients first.
Yeah.
So it's a real risk. And our auditors are doing a really good job, I
But our time to go out to bid is, this is just interim that they wouldn't give us 5 years of fixed fees. So we could go out to bid at any time because we're not committed to the full 5 years. If they say, oh, they suck this year, let's go out to bid, we certainly can do that. But just things that are happening that, of those 100 towns that don't get their audits in on time, some of it's because of the auditor and not the town but I think we've been, one thing that we did seamlessly, we instituted a new pronouncement for leases. Operating leases are now, look like capital leases on one of the schedules that, and our auditors gave us a worksheet, we filled it out, and we put it into the statements. I have another town that, that audit firm, they did the same thing. They filled out the form, the auditors put it into the statements, and billed them 10 grand. That they didn't spend 10 grand a time on that, but so if we do go out to bid at some point, I have notes in my head that we should talk about.
Take all that into consideration.
And then the 25-26 budget update, nothing exciting that we know about for expenses, just revenue. The state hasn't set their budget yet, and this kind of shows that, like education cost sharing, that for the year we're in now, for 2025, we received 1.3 million. The governor's budget had that increasing 241,000. The Appropriations Committee kept it at that increased amount, that it was increasing 241,000. And the latest information that we have, we're now into the final budget of the full legislature, we might lose that 241,000. But on the other side, that the Appropriations Committee increased our town aid road by 100,000. So we won't know any of this until the final budget is done, and they have to be done by the end of the legislative session, which is June 4th. So nothing that we can't adapt to, but it's just, we just don't know where we are on that because we have to wait until they're done. Any questions on that? Other items, the transfers to suspense, as we talked earlier, it's like an allowance for doubtful accounts. The taxes are still fully collectible. All collection efforts are still made. They still, if you haven't paid your taxes, you still can't register your car. That's one of the biggest things that that helps us. That when they come in to pay another bill for a car, you can't. They don't just lose them. They have to go to the old taxes first. And we use a collection service and a marshal to try and collect those. The methodology is that it's the grand list year 21, which is fiscal year 23. Motor vehicle and personal property, you have a list of that, and I think you were emailed it a few weeks ago. And then grand list 22, which is fiscal year 24, are going to suspense if they've moved out of state and without paying, and if their mail is being returned to us. That so that is suspense. Any questions on?
Can we publish that suspense list?
We can publish the suspense list. That would be a good
You
control.
should. I think in the monthly spotlight letter, we should say there's this many people, and if you want to see who's not paying, here's the link to the list. I'm serious. I'm not being.
No.
I'm smirking on this one.
You know, you name them and shame them.
Name them and shame them.
So
Yeah.
I will say, as an auditor, I used to love that idea. But this is what the feedback was, because I loved it for internal control, because what if they've really paid and we just didn't get to the books? That, but on the other side, the tax collectors, that some of them really do have a heart, that that they say, well, you know, sometimes people are trying as hard
Don't
as
like
they
that I
can,
date
the
her.
little old lady,
During
but,
hard times.
Yeah, no.
so that's both sides that I've heard, but,
The list is available to anybody who asks for it.
That's not the same.
I'd like to have a little more in-depth discussion before we,
No, I'm voting against
to
it
see,
right now.
it might be counterproductive.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't know. I don't disagree with it, I just think we should,
We're not the decision makers on that. That would be my recommendation to do it.
yeah. We think about it.
Or find a threshold, you know, sometimes you look at that list and there are 5 accounts for the same person, like different businesses that went out.
Dollar amount.
yeah.
You know,
Or
you look at
could-
that list and the single biggest item on it is Bed Bath & Beyond
Right.
for
Ah.
$8,200. They went bankrupt.
Yeah.
We might collect some of that when they go through the bankruptcy court, you know, or,
Businesses are fine, I think it's the people, it's the personal, you know, we
Yeah.
don't know what's going on in their lives, and if we put it out there, it's a small town, we're, you know, why put anybody on the spot? That's my
well,
thought.
I see both.
yeah, but, being a finance director with no heart, that, that they are the people that are causing your taxes to go up.
I know.
that,
I can attest to that first part.
But I never had a heart, so I'm not gonna.
Yeah, so that's the give
I
and
mean,
take
have
of
you
that.
even thumb through this? Maybe there's 1 out of 1,000 that has having a problem. There's 999, there something else is going on. Anyway, that's just my recommendation to whoever decides that kind of stuff.
All right. And that's it.
Okay, so moving on to report of the committees, I don't know that we have any audit reports or capital, anything from capital or audit.
Now, I know people saw it on Capitol. George DeLasos was appointed to the Capitol Committee in the Board of Select meeting a few weeks ago. Has been sworn in. We're having a little bit of problem scheduling the meetings for the 10-year, but we're still gonna try to get that done. Part of the problem, I think, is that the terms are up at the end of June, so I talked to Bob, because Bob Belden's drafting the ordinance to make this not an ad hoc department, as Steve was saying. So maybe we'll extend it a little bit to get that done for the people that are on it already. I think it's a great idea to make it an ordinance, because they're longer terms. We can probably get into more, like this year, I think the year before, by the time you get the committee set, it's like December and you're scrambling just to get the budget stuff done.
Yeah.
You know? So if you have a committee that's in place for a period of time, then that would be, I think it would be easier to kind of get into some bigger ticket kind of items or get a little bit ahead of things. The other thing that Bob was asking about is how big should the committee be? I think it's either 5 or 6 people. There's advantages and disadvantages to either of those numbers, so maybe that's something we'll talk about again as we get a little bit closer.
And I think we make better decisions if, you're right, we have been kind of pushed and we're doing it in December, January, start to finish. If we're doing this in August, September, October, looking at the really big projects, trying to lay them out, and I can get every single department, they know what they need, right? So we can get 90% of what we need in the August timeframe
Yeah.
for the next 10 years. And then there might be changes that they come, oh, this piece of equipment totally went on us. But I think it would make for better planning and then shorter meetings with better results. More better results. Is that a real pleasant expression?
Results.
Just better results. Because I think the Capital Committee is an incredible boon for both the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and myself.
And then it's done a great job on the budget for the last couple of years I've been involved, but we haven't done very much beyond the budget, and that's where there's a lot more value that can be had.
Yeah.
The long-term planning, policy type stuff. There's still a lot of policy stuff we could discuss that.
Yep. I agree.
And nothing else on the audit? Okay. Old business, we have the internal service fund.
We'll probably just roll it over to the full committee.
Yeah.
I just keep leaving it on there so it
Yeah.
doesn't lose, we don't lose it.
Yep, okay. And then new business, we have a few motions to discuss tonight. So I would like to make, I'd like to make a motion to approve the interdepartment transfers for the year end 2025 as noted in the budget versus actual expenditures report. That was approved by the Board of Selectmen at their May 5th meeting. Do I have a second?
Also,
Any discussion? Mhm. So that was this B in the proposed motions attachment that we had, right? So I thought that was pretty plainly spelled out. I know I didn't have any questions on it. Anybody else?
No.
Okay. All those all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. I would also like to make a motion to approve the transfers between projects in the capital non-recurring fund for the year end 2025 as shown in the reports provided and approved by the Board of Selectmen at their May 5th meeting.
Second.
Any discussion?
It's good we can get the continuing repairing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that,
that's a good.
good
She
timing.
was talking to the vendor today to say that she may be able to sign the purchase order tomorrow.
Awesome.
Perfect. Awesome.
That brings up another question that I had. So we haven't scheduled our meeting after the referendum, right? So we need to set the mill rate. So I think that's something we need to, I don't know if I need to do that as an other business item or a motion to do a new business item, but we need to set a meeting date.
We can do it in June, we have to do it in May.
We wanted to, yeah, we need to do it.
There's a
in May.
certain number of days after the vote. It has to
Yeah,
be like
usually
10 or
within
14.
Yeah, we usually try to do
I'm
it.
traveling that, but
Okay.
if you guys are.
If we have, as long as we have a quorum, I think we'll be fine. So maybe we'll, I'll speak to Glenn and Brianna.
We gotta get this, finish up the motion.
Okay, good
Yeah,
point.
we did that.
Any further comments on it? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Okay. So that was the interdepartment, okay. So then, here's, I don't remember, can I make a motion now in this part of the agenda to do the, audit? Sorry, you two,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know if most of it sounds right.
Yeah, that's, yeah, sorry, I just had the,
The
could you
audit,
throw your
You-
slide
you-
back up? You had the motion up on the, I think.
I don't think I had the
Oh,
motion,
then
but
maybe, I have it in my email.
You want to make a motion to reappoint the auditor?
Yeah, I found
Yes.
So
it.
first you
Yeah.
have to add an item
Okay,
to your agenda. I make a motion to
Okay,
add
so I'll
an
make
No
a
item.
under
motion.
other items to come before the board.
okay. So since we have no other new items, I'll bring a motion for other items to come before the board. So I'd like to make a motion that we appoint the auditor to report appoint the auditor for
the audit of fiscal year June 30th, 2025.
thank you. So appoint the auditor for fiscal year June 30th, 2025. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussions? So I think we've already talked about this in the finance director's report.
Can I stop you?
Yes?
Did you make a motion to add the item? Get a second on that?
No,
Sorry. Okay. All those in favor of adding the item to the agenda?
Aye.
Okay, now I'll make a motion to appoint the auditor for fiscal year starting June 30th, 2025.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
we talked about the financials of it, but, I mean, I've been through those audited results a lot over the last couple of years. I mean, they're very well done, right? I don't know, just because it's a formulaic thing, but, I get really good value in it, I think they're very good reports. They will get good, you deal with them on a regular basis, but the money we're spending is well worth it.
They're very well done, and it seems like you guys work seamlessly together.
All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Okay, I would like to make another motion to add, the approval of the suspense list to our other items to come before the board. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So now I will make a motion that we approve the suspense list.
We have to vote on
Oh,
Adding
sorry.
it.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, all those in favor? of
Aye.
adding the agenda item? None opposed. Okay, I'll try that again. Well, I make a motion to approve the suspense list, that we received, yeah. Any seconds? I did not rehearse this well. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We have to do comments first.
Oh, comments?
I'm doing this for, in
Yeah.
case anyone actually
Yeah,
watches
yeah,
it,
no,
so people
any
know we're
discussion.
talking about this.
Yeah.
The total list is a slight bit under $87,000. Again, it doesn't mean we're not gonna collect it, we're gonna continue to collect it, but it's, you know, that's the size of the number. That's all I have.
No, thank you for that. Okay. Any other comments, discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Okay. So then for the other items that come before the board, I guess we just need to figure out a date. But do we need to have that in the minutes, to have a date for our next meeting, or can we just post that and, as long as we post that and, we don't have to.
Well, you need to check with Glenn and
It would be a
Brianna,
special
so-
meeting anyway,
yeah,
so
do
Right,
that.
the
It'll
special
be a
meeting,
special-
just,
Okay.
it'll just be the second.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
do it the 24 hours ahead of
Yeah.
time and just have
That's fine.
everything
Right.
on your agenda that you're gonna cover.
Yep.
And it depends on whether the budget's passed or not,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it passes on the 20th, which, everybody come out and vote on the 20th.
Yeah.
I think it
what is
will, my personal
14, 15 days to set it, somewhere between 10 and 15 days, we will set the mill rate by then.
Yeah, if it failed, you have to have the next vote 2 weeks later.
Yes.
I would say do it right after, the
Yes.
20th.
Could
Try to
we-
do it Wednesday or Thursday so everybody knows where you are, if you can.
Yeah. Okay. So let's look to, I know I can't do Wednesday, but I could do Thursday, but we can do, I'll touch base with Brian, with Glenn and Brianna, and we'll find a date that works, but we'll try to get it in by the end of that week, by the end of next week. Okay.
Sounds good, and because we'll have to get the agenda in, so I guess if
Yeah.
we know it passes by the nighttime of the 20th, we would have time to put the agenda in on the 21st to potentially meet on the
And we
22nd.
might set it to either be a discussion of budget, because we would need to propose a new budget, or it's an approval of the
Right.
setting the mill
Right,
rate
okay.
for the new
So
budget.
we'll meet either way.
And then what,
Yeah,
so that's
So
the
we'll-
May 20th.
May
You definitely got it.
20th is the.
May 20th is the day,
Is the
right?
budget,
I'm
is the
leaving the
vote.
22nd.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, so what I would do, depending on what happens Tuesday,
Yeah.
if it's approved, you set a meeting Wednesday morning, you figure out what it is for
Yeah.
either Thursday, because you have to give it 24 hours,
Yeah,
and then you'll know the topic,
yeah.
Right.
right? It's either set the mill rate or discuss budget,
Wait,
and.
So I think we'll likely
Right.
not have.
You're proposing Thursday the 22nd, right?
Yeah.
I'm
well, if you did it on Wednesday, the 21st, you could just have a
That should be fine.
agenda item of budget 2026.
And they
Yeah,
can't do the
that's
21st.
true.
I know I can't do the 20th, but that doesn't preclude if it could be
You
different.
could do that if you set that Tuesday and you had a Wednesday meeting, you have 2 items on there. One, possible agenda item,
Yeah.
possible setting of mill rate.
Yeah,
Agenda item, discussion of budget
yeah.
if budget does not pass. You could have 2.
I'll talk to Glenn and see how he.
Glenn, see what you
Right.
want to do.
Whichever way you guys all wanna do it, we'll make it agenda.
But the assessor and tax collector would be much appreciative if you did it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
give
'cause
them-
they have
Yeah, I'd like to.
Start putting everything in.
Yeah, and my thought process was the Kids Kingdom,
Yeah.
but yeah, the tax assessors.
That is our win for this year.
I do not see any public available to provide public comments, so I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
A second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
You got it.
Meeting adjourned.